Well, I'm so glad you've chosen to join us for another devotional message. Last time we looked at the importance of love from the first few verses of 1 Corinthians 13. Today we're going to look at how Paul describes love in verses 4 through 8. It is important that we understand the characteristics of love and strive to make these characteristics our characteristics. God is love and embodies the very essence of love. And as His children, we're called to show love to others. Let's jump in and look at what true love is according to 1 Corinthians 13. Paul tells us in verse 4 that love is patient. We tend to be impatient with people, especially if someone is driving slowly in front of us or when someone really gets on our nerves. But love is patient. Love does not snap out of impatience. Rather, love endures and bears with the situation with a positive attitude as it looks to serve others rather than serve self. Paul continues to say that love is kind and is not jealous, or as the English Standard puts it, does not envy. We sometimes attack others for little reason, especially in arguments or when others have hurt us, but love isn't that way. Concerning jealousy, there are good types of jealousy as demonstrated by the fact that God is a jealous God, but in general, jealousy is a negative emotion that leads to bad things in our attitudes and in our actions. We can tend to get jealous very easily for no good reason. Love does not do this. Next, Paul says love does not brag and is not arrogant. We tend to be self-promoting and try to make ourselves out to be better than others, but love does not do that. Love causes us to promote other people ahead of ourselves and give others glory rather than always seeking the glory for ourselves. Paul tells us in verse 5, love does not act unbecomingly, or love is not rude. There are certain characteristics of love, and love does not betray those qualities and act contrary to them in certain situations. Love is not rude or unruly, but behaves itself properly. We, however, have a tendency to act differently in different situations if it means acting such would turn out to be better for us. But love is always on its best behavior, so to speak. This leads right into the next idea. Love does not seek its own. Or as the English Standard Version puts it, it does not insist on its own way. Out of love, God sent His own Son to die for us. He was not seeking His own good in that situation. Rather, He was looking out for our good ahead of His. 1 John 4:9 through 11 states, "In this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent His only Son into the world so that we might live through Him. In this is love, not that we have loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another." We tend to try to seek our own good in everything and will serve the good of others if it is convenient or helpful to us, but love does not seek its own good. We are to put the good of others ahead of our own good, just like God did. Paul continues by saying love is not provoked. We tend to become angry easily when someone does something to us, but if we show true love, then we will not allow others to provoke us to anger. Jesus went through much abuse and was not provoked. Rather, Jesus asked God to forgive those who abused Him. The next characteristic of love is that love does not take into account a wrong suffered. Sometimes we tend to keep a list in our head of when people have wronged us, and we'll sometimes use that against them later. But love forgives and moves on. We can be assured that God does not keep a list of the things that we have done wrong to later throw in our faces. When God forgives, He forgets. Hebrews 8:12 says, "For I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more." What a blessed thought this is. We need to take from God's example and truly forgive people from the heart without making mental notes of all the wrongs and remembering them to later use against that person. Paul continues in verse 6, "Love does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with truth." True love from the Father does not love evil, but only good. This does not mean that we are to not love people who do evil, since God Himself loves all people. We are not to love their evil deeds. This was a problem that Paul dealt with in chapter 5 of 1 Corinthians, as the people, in a sense, rejoiced in unrighteousness by letting the man continue to live in unrepentant sin without demanding that he stop it. By their lack of action and rebuke, the Corinthian church was in effect saying, "We accept his sin." We must correct those who are living in error while speaking the truth in love. We must express compassion and desire to see the lost person's soul saved and not simply attack them or rain judgment upon them. We must give a gentle rebuke that shows our concern without being judgmental and condescending. Then in verse 7, Paul says, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love trusts all and never gives up. True love will persevere through good and bad times and will always hope for the best and have faith in the one upon whom that love is bestowed. So what's the main point of these characteristics? The main point behind all these qualities of love is that love puts others first, gives others the benefit of the doubt, and will cause a person to do great things to the benefit of others. True love is unselfish. True love begins with the heart. True love requires a humble spirit. We need to study these attributes of love and do our best to make them our attributes. A good exercise to do is to place your name in the place of the word love in this passage and check to see if the statements ring true. Damien is patient. Damien is kind. Damien is not jealous. Damien does not brag. Damien is not arrogant. Damien does not act unbecomingly. Damien does not seek his own good. Damien is not easily provoked. Damien does not keep an account of wrongs suffered. Damien does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Damien bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. When you plug your name into these phrases, you must truly evaluate the truthfulness of the statement. If any of these statements are false, then you should work on that particular characteristic of love in order to grow in love. Paul closes up by stating love never fails and pointing out that while spiritual gifts are temporary, faith, hope, and love will go on forever. We always need to increase in our faith, increase in our hope, and increase in our love as we learn more and more about Jesus and his love for us and the hope that we have through him. Truly, nothing is as important as faith, hope, and love, and especially love. And we mustn't elevate anything to be more important than these three things. And the greatest of all three of these things is indeed love. So we need to work on making these characteristics of love ours and becoming better at showing love to the world around us. I hope you've gained something of benefit from today's lesson, that you will be encouraged to grow in your love for others and the way that you show that. As always, I hope you have a great week, and may God bless you as you seek to follow him.